When you look at the border dispute, it's a historical problem. It started way back, and to start talking about the Malawi-Tanzania border dispute, we'll talk about 2011 or 2012, when the Minister of Energy and Mining in Malawi made an effort to brief the Tanzanian counterpart on the prospects, on the intention that Malawi is intending to prospect for oil on Lake Malawi. And then there was that misinterpretation by the Tanzanian counterparts who thought that Malawi had already gone ahead, embarked on oil prospecting, and more or less like that. The plans were at an advanced stage in as far as mining was concerned. So there was that misinterpretation on the part of Tanzania, and there was this overreaction that the Tanzanian side thought maybe the best way forward is to simply split the lake, because as far as Tanzania is concerned, they have a right to part of the lake itself. And when you are looking at the issue, it's a issue which was there in the past, but then the issue of oil simply sparked the issue which had not been concluded. And that's why you have now countries like Malawi and Tanzania being at loggerheads in as far as settlement of Lake Malawi. The problems are to do with the stability. The relations are not stable because of the way the dispute has been going on. And currently, if you look at on the part of Malawi, the people are not happy that the Tanzanians are continuously claiming part of the lake. And that has more or less like created tension, especially in the northern part of Malawi. And then currently, of late, you have also the development in Tanzania, that Malawians are being harassed. And then there is that thinking that it's all about the Malawi-Tanzania border dispute. And in a way, the issue which started only looking at Lake Malawi is now more or less like growing larger and larger. It's now extending to Malawians staying, residing inside Tanzania. So far, several efforts, bilateral efforts, have been done by Tanzania and Malawi. We have had representatives from Malawi, and including a cross-section of professionals, including historians, being part of the group, traveling to Tanzania, holding some negotiations on this border dispute. On the other side, we also have initiatives by the Malawian government trying to initiate these negotiation meetings with the Tanzanian counterparts. But then looking at what has been done so far, despite such several negotiation or rounds or negotiation tables, not much has been achieved. And it has been reported that the discussions have not been conclusive because of the emotions which would flare during the discussions. So much so that we have the Tanzanians sticking to their stand that the way out is to split the lake, and then the Malawian delegations also sticking to their stand that there is no way you would have the northern part of Lake Malawi to be split, because even historically Lake Malawi belongs to Malawi. And then on the part of Malawi, the argument is if you try to look at the border, the boundary itself, it's actually along the lake, and then indicating that Tanzanians only entitled to the shoreline. And then this is compared to the southern part of Lake Malawi, where you have the boundary between Malawi and Tanzania and Mozambique going inside the lake. And then in this case you have part of Lake Malawi belonging to Mozambique, and then part of Lake Malawi belonging to Malawi. So negotiations have been done, but then without each of the two sides actually compromising. It created a lot of tension in Malawi, and because of the thinking on the part of Malawians, especially in northern region districts of Karonga, Chitipa, the general feeling was that Tanzania was actually preparing for a war with Malawi. And then there were reports that actually the border between Malawi and Tanzania, you had a lot of soldiers from Tanzania manning the border. And then in general, from 2012 up to 2013, you had a lot of tension. And of late, what has happened is that this border dispute has actually affected the Malawians who are actually resident or residing inside Tanzania. And then there have been reports of Malawians actually being harassed. Several incidences have been reported. Those Malawians, for example, doing business in Tanzania, have had their property destroyed. And of late, you have had some Malawians actually being chased out of Tanzania. And then such developments have also tended to culminate, to worsen the general feeling of the Malawians. So much so that we have a cross-section of Malawians who are also bent on retaliating on, for example, more or less like dealing with the Tanzanians, the Swahilis, a large population of whom are resident in northern region, for example, in Mzuzu. So in terms of the impact of the border dispute, you'd see that it is actually touching on the stay of Malawians inside Tanzania, and also the stay of Tanzanians who are inside Malawi. So the general issue is now culminating into xenophobia. In my view, it's unfortunate that these bilateral negotiations have not borne fruit. But in my view, I personally feel that maybe there was need for Malawi and Tanzania to engage in more negotiations, more rounds of discussion, negotiation, before actually concluding that the issue is now out of hand, and before maybe opting for the International Court of Justice, for example. Again, at regional level, at SADC, maybe before the issue is taken to International Court of Justice, negotiation had to be exhausted. So I am of the view that the issue was not conclusive, and then was taken to a higher level for intervention, for settlement, before the two sides actually engaged in meaningful negotiation and diplomacy. So in a way, there is need for more or less like further engagement between Malawi and Tanzania, because it is an issue which started small and which could be concluded amicably. And if you try to look at what has happened so far, this is the issue which one would have thought would have been concluded. but then the way it has been handled, and then on both sides, on the part of Tanzania and part of Malawi, there has been instances where the issue has escalated in terms of tension because of the lack of information. So the information flow has also been not been good. So much so that you have in the northern part of Malawi a lot of tension as a result of the lack of information. And then the other issue is that maybe the government of Malawi needed to approach this issue with a little more firmness, as unlike what they have done so far. Because ordinarily, looking at the dispute, Malawi has a stronger case than Tanzania.